Now, before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I've been in and around the building controls industry, and specifically the integrated building controls industry for nearly 40 years. Now, I know instantly what you're thinking about is, there's no way I could have been in any industry for 40 years looking this good. But actually, no, I've got great genes and fabulous skincare products. So I used to be an engineer back in the day, and then I formed and ran my own business in the world of integrated systems. Then I became a consultant, and latterly, in the last sort of 10 years or so, I've been working at Tritium, where I lead the charge as far as our global relationships with our key partners are concerned. Now, the average attention span, the memory of a goldfish, is 9 seconds. 9 seconds, that's what the scientists tell us a goldfish can remember something for. The average attention span of a modern human is 8.25 seconds, okay? People are preoccupied with their telephones and their laptops, so we've got an attention span of slightly less than a goldfish. So what I need you to do is just give your attention to me for more than 8.25 seconds. I need about 15 minutes of your time, and you'll be entertained, I'm sure, and learn something along the way. Now, by any measure, the demand for IoT shows no signs of slowing down. I'm not going to surprise you with these following facts, but they're going to back up and reinforce everything that Asim's been saying so far and everything I'm about to say here today. These numbers from Statista tell their own story. So in 2024, this year, there are expected to be almost 19 billion IoT devices worldwide. That's everything from the intelligent devices in refrigerators and wearable tech, right the way through to gaming devices and so on. And it includes the IoT that we see in the world of building for sensing and metering too. Now, by 2033, conservatively, there'll be more than double that number of IoT devices worldwide, around about 40 billion. Now, as the world of IoT sensors has grown astronomically, there's been an accompanying proliferation of new sensor vendors, of new sensor solutions, and new ways of fusing sensor data together into unique use cases that extract the value of that sensor data. Now, because there's no one single organization, there's no industrial consortium that's led the way with standardizing those sensor devices, there's been a growing complexity and a fragmentation across the IoT industry. Today, there are dozens of sensors with hundreds of sensor companies and third-party vendors. They provide sensor-related solutions, and there are thousands of potential supplier and sensor combinations. This data, also from Statista, shows a slight exponential trend across the data range. And that may mean that actually the years that follow, there may well be a lot more than 40 billion devices in the world, and a lot more of those problems of complexity and proliferation. The second IoT fact is that most IoT devices are insecure by default. It might be a bold statement, but come with me. That's either a result of poor engineering implementation, which leads to vulnerabilities in the software design, or because the products only meet the very basic, lowest minimum specification for cybersecurity. And that's because there's been a huge rush, a huge pressure to get IoT devices to market. Startups in the world of IoT are everywhere, and the pressure to deliver market-ready products means that IoT devices are often a gateway into serious cybercrime. Accessing personal data, ransomware, malevolent activity from bad actors, this interconnected web of devices presents a significant cybersecurity challenge. This data from Checkpoint Technologies demonstrates why this is a growing problem. This is the number of attacks per enterprise, per business, per day through IoT devices and systems alone. So 2 years ago, it really wasn't much of a problem at all. But if you look how the graph has shown, 70 attacks per organization per day in Europe alone, with the other countries not too far behind. Now, based on data from PSA Certified, the average cost of a typical successful attack through an IoT device for a business exceeds $330,000. That's the average. Now, all of this means that IoT departments are, understandably, wary of connecting IoT devices to in-house client infrastructure and networks. And according to Thales, it's the #1 IoT-related security concern. Now, some might suggest this is all scaremongering, and there's very little to it. But a report from Forrester's reveals that 34% of enterprises that fell victim to a breach via an IoT device faced higher cumulative costs than cyber attacks on non-IoT devices. And that cost was somewhere between $5 and $10 million. So, finally, IoT fact number 3. Let's not forget that measuring things is not new. This, as I'm sure you've probably all realized already, is the world's oldest sundial. It's probably the earliest example of a man-made device to measure something, in this case, time. It's about 3,500 years old, and it was found in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt. And I'm told it still keeps excellent time even now, which has got to be a testament to the ancient engineers that put it together. But electronically, the measurement of things has proliferated in the last 30 years or so, the things that are measured. From 1990 to today, the number, the complexity, the technology used, and the interconnection between sensing devices has exploded. And the development of so-called sensor dust, which has got fully functional transmission for an IoT device in something that's no bigger, literally, than a grain of sand, we can expect many more interconnections and devices in the field in the coming years. But let's come back to buildings. How does all this complexity and vulnerability and proliferation, how does it impact the world of concrete and steel that we all live in and shop in and relax in and work in? When we think about smart buildings, we think about, quite rightly, buildings like this, the Burj Khalifa just down the road here in Dubai. It's an iconic structure, and it's known worldwide. It's got a reputation, quite rightly, for being a modern, smart building. It's got hundreds of thousands of active sensing and actuation points. It's got hundreds of different and completely different systems controlling and monitoring every aspect of building operation and performance. It delivers world-class standards for occupant well-being, safety, and energy efficiency. But how representative of the world's building stock is this stunning building? Well, the answer is not at all, because the vast majority of the world's buildings are decades and sometimes centuries old. They've got crumbling and archaic infrastructure and poorly maintained systems and services. The Burj is a world standard in buildings, but it's not the standard of most buildings in the world. Now, we might look towards the smart city developments in new projects, NEOM in Saudi Arabia, or the campus developments in India and China, or the smart urban developments that we see in the US or in Europe. But nearly all the buildings in the cities around the world, they are dumb. They're not connected. They've got no smarts at all. And from that point of view, smart buildings are the exception. They're not the rule. Now, with all due respect to anybody in the room who designs and builds skyscrapers like the Burj for a living, as hard and as complex as that is, it's still the very easy end of the market as far as systems are concerned. The really heavy lifting is enabling smarts in buildings that fundamentally don't have them. And that smart enabling of buildings represents a significant and a sizable opportunity for solutions providers who are willing to rise to the challenge and create new smart buildings and new smart cities from our existing dumb building city stock. It also gives building owners the opportunity to drive additional revenue by enabling smart facilities in their estates. Now, there is an understandable desire for solutions providers to gravitate towards new building projects, but the reality is the opportunity exists in what we've already got. Now, I wonder if you're willing, can we do a quick experiment? Could I have everybody stand to their feet just for a moment, please? It will all make sense in a moment. Please don't worry about it. Everybody just jump up to your feet. If you could, I'd really enjoy it if you did. This is an experiment I've done all over the world, and it's worked everywhere, and I'm nervous that it won't work here, okay? So, if you live in a house or an apartment or a flat, if you live in a building that's more than 100 years old, can you take a seat? If you're in a building, if you live in a building more than 100 years old, take a seat. In England, I have to start at 200 years because we have lived in some very, very old properties. Okay, what about, no, nobody sat down, by the way, that's great. What about 50 years? Is the house that you live in, the flat or whatever, more than 50 years old? How about more than 40, 30, 20? You see, people are starting to go down. The house that you live in is more than 10 years old, 10 years or older. There we go. What about 5 years? So the house that you live in, the flat is more than 5 years old. So, and this is very typical. I'm glad we got away with it. This is very typical. So if you look around the room, what have we got here, Asim? 400 people, 500 people, something like that? Yeah. And we've got, maybe 10 or so people standing up. That percentage, okay, you can take a seat. Thank you so much, everybody. It did work, thank you. That percentage is typical also of the percentage of buildings that currently exist that we use today. So, this statistic from McKinsey, 80% of the buildings that will be around in 2050 are already here. They're already here. So the idea that actually smart cities can only be and can only come from buildings that are being built is a fallacy. Now, it means if we look at buildings that we have today, they look a little bit like this. Well, I mean, if they don't look just like silos, the systems that they have inside of them certainly behave in silos. Often the systems that are in our building are in compartmentalized silos which are firewalled or air-gapped from one another. That's lighting systems, air conditioning control systems, systems for fire, energy monitoring and management, CCTV, access control, and many, many more. Now, they've existed in those silos in quite happy isolation. They each control and monitor their own particular world, and they rarely, if ever, interact with one another. The problem is that over time, changes to the demands and the style and the use of the building happen, and the building system's operation no longer matches the needs of the very occupiers that use that space. Very often, those silos are literally unconnected. There's no physical or electrical bridge between them. But where they do exist on some common backbone, they don't even share a common language or a common protocol. So they're coexisting, but they're not integrated. And believe it or not, this is the state of most of the buildings around the world, including the buildings here in Dubai. They're unconnected, they're effectively air-gapped, and the systems are firewalled from one another. Now, converting those silos of systems into something much more cohesive is the first step along the journey to convergence. Getting them to talk to each other is the next step on that journey. And Tritium, my company, leads the way in that with our Niagara framework. Although we're not the only show in town to do this, we are, by any measure, certainly the biggest and, I think, the best. We link things together. We give engineering companies the opportunity to craft their own customized solutions like DisruptX. We add a bulletproof layer of cybersecurity to integrated solutions. And many of the systems and devices that we connect to are legacy. They're non-conforming products, as well as the most up-to-date revisions of standards like BACnet and OPC UA. And ensuring that the data isn't just a torrent of point values, that's intrinsic to any system of systems. So we've made sure that the data that we provide on-prem, through networks or in the cloud, is rich, contextualized, and it meets all the latest standards in ontologies and building models like Haystack and the brick schema. Now, at Tritium, we act as the guardian gateway to and from converged networks, bringing IoT data safely and securely into the IT environment. We mitigate the risk and we improve resilience. From a single sign-on and encrypted data at rest through to the digital signing of third-party modules and the highest levels of encryption standards for financial and mission-critical applications, Niagara meets or exceeds all known cybersecurity standards in the built environment, and it remains our #1 priority in all updates and software revisions. So, who is it that needs what I'm talking about? Who needs this technology glue? Well, firstly, it's the manufacturers of those IoT products and systems and solutions that I talked about at the start, linking their products, which are often in a very highly specialized vertical, into the sensing and monitoring ecosystems that are already installed and operating in existing buildings, adding indoor air quality sensing or leak detection into systems that are already in the buildings that we have. Secondly, the installers, the integrators, the engineering companies, they're trying to create cohesion from the chaos of systems proliferation and complexity. And they need their integration problems solved, their customers' integration problems solved, without the need to rip everything out and replace it with something else, but to augment, to add to what's already there. And finally, end users, the building owners, the operators, that are looking to create safe and comfortable environments for the building users without compromising on energy efficiency and occupant satisfaction. In short, it's everybody in the built environment. Now, ensuring that IoT devices and systems are connected, integrated, and secure is vital to the success of the IoT industry and its future. And if you want to discuss this any further, or you want to catch up with me, just get hold of me after this talk or in one of the breaks. Happily buy you a drink if that's what you want. But I do want to thank you all for giving me more than 8.25 seconds of your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.